Is our school system broken? Or is it working exactly as designed? Kids spend thousands of hours memorizing facts they'll probably never use, preparing for standardized tests that no one's going to remember, and spend a lot of time sitting in buildings that look suspiciously like prisons. Why does school feel like something done to us instead of something built for us? Why do the most curious, creative, and ambitious minds often struggle the most inside it? What if it's not about you? What if the problem is the system itself? Let's look at what we were taught to believe about education and ask the question most schools never encouraged. Why are we even doing this in the first place? There's a reason school never taught you how to start a business, or how to manage your taxes, or how to use your own mind to solve the world's most real problems, because it wasn't built for that. It was built to make you obedient, to turn you into a reliable employee, to keep you busy, to keep you quiet. We're not living in a factory world anymore. We're living in a world that is accelerating AI. We have failing institutions. We have massive global challenges that can't be solved by people who only know how to memorize chapter 3 and raise their hand to go to the bathroom. If we want to survive, if we want to thrive, we need a new system. One built on thinking, not obeying. And that change starts here. Welcome back to Thinking and Being. If you like what you see today, please go ahead and like and subscribe, as this will enable you to see more content from myself and others just like this. And I plan to be on YouTube for the next 50 years or so either way you're going to have to deal with me, so go ahead and click all the buttons. So why this particular topic? This one's been building up for a long time. As a parent, I've watched my sons spend weeks, literal weeks, memorizing countries and capitals around the earth. And yeah, I get it. You don't want to be the dumb American in the room. Geography matters. But I used to learn that by exploring a globe on my own, drawing pictures of states and countries, looking at where the capitals were, looking at different cities. I let my curiosity lead the way. It wasn't about being tested on alphabetical lists like a robot. And it's not just that. My sons have had to memorize formulas in math without knowing what they're really for, vocabulary words that they'll probably never use, science terms with no spark of wonder behind them. It's as if school is determined to squeeze every drop of joy from learning. And so obviously I started asking, why is it like this? Why does school so often feel like it's built to kill curiosity instead of ignite it? And that's what we're diving into. Not just how the system failed, but how we can rebuild it better, potentially. So the first thing I want to talk about is the many problems with our current education system. So who designed the system? Before we critique the system, we have to ask who designed it. And if you weren't aware, enter John D. Rockefeller and the General Education Board of 1903. One of the richest industrialists of all time, Rockefeller wasn't trying to build a nation of free thinkers. He is famously quoted as saying, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." So he funded a board that shaped public education, curriculum, structure, and even architecture. The result? Bell schedules, rows of desks, age-based cohorts, memorize, recite, and obey. Sound familiar? This wasn't a bug, it was a feature, and it's still the foundation of what we call education today. We teach compliance, not curiosity. In the average classroom, obedience is rewarded, not creativity, not inquiry, not collaboration. Students are taught to raise their hand, to line up, to memorize and regurgitate, to follow instructions. But here's the kicker. Real life rarely works that way. The best ideas in the world didn't come from people who scored well on standardized tests. They came from those who asked better questions. If the goal was to produce factory workers for an industrial economy from the late 1800s, well, mission accomplished. But that economy is long gone. So why are we still using that blueprint? Let's talk about memorization versus understanding. Ask any student if they remember what they learned 2 months ago in class, and most can't. Why? Because they weren't learning, they were cramming.
All right, okay, let's take care of some business. Chapter 1, A Dream of Freedom. On September 15th, 1620, Puritan separatists from the Church of England, some living in Holland, left Plymouth, England. Their destination was... Uh-oh.
To pass a test they'd never see again. We've built a system that prioritizes short-term memory over long-term mastery. We reward students who can spit out definitions, but we rarely teach them how to build mental models or to explain why something matters. Critical thinking? That's optional. Pattern recognition? Rare. Independent research? Almost never. This isn't education, it's academic performance theater. Let's talk about science without wonder. Why is it that science, arguably the most fascinating subject in the world, often feels like the dullest? Because instead of exploration, kids are handed vocabulary sheets. Instead of asking their own questions, they're told to memorize someone else's answers. Imagine if instead we taught science the way real scientists practice it. Run experiments, get things wrong, learn why, get curious, try again. Science should feel like solving a mystery, not like prepping for a spelling bee. Let's talk about meaningful life skills. Let's be honest, how many of us learn how to do our taxes in school, or how interest works, or how to buy a car, or what a city council even does? We're taught how to find X, but not how to fund a business. We learn about ancient wars, but not how to communicate with people at work. And instead of classes on conflict resolution, we get lectures about turning in your homework on time. What if we swapped a semester of geometry with how to run a small farm, how to start a local business, how to vote in an election, how to challenge power respectfully? These things matter, and they should matter in this country, but we don't teach it. And let's talk about college. The system trains everyone to chase the same goal, college. But the ROI on college, especially undergrad degrees, has never been lower. Tuition has skyrocketed, wages are stagnant, degrees don't guarantee jobs anymore. We tell kids to go to college for the experience. Meanwhile, they graduate with crippling debt, no direction, and few skills employers actually want. And in a world where AI can generate essays, code, and design mock-ups in seconds, we have to ask, are we sending kids into a four-year trap that's already obsolete? And let's talk about a little bit of math. Quick, when was the last time you needed to solve a quadratic equation in your life? Why do we prioritize trigonometry over collaboration, ethics, or systems thinking, or just understanding data? It's not that math doesn't matter, it does. But our math curriculum was designed for a world of engineers and accountants, not artists, thinkers, or entrepreneurs. If your brain doesn't process math well in school, you're treated like you're bad at learning, when really you might be just bad at following a script that was written in the 1950s. So we might be raising kids to think like robots. We're training kids for a world where robots are already better than us at memorizing things. So why are we still teaching kids to act like calculators? We need to think about Moravec's paradox. Moravec's paradox says that computers can do things that humans are not good at, and humans can do things that computers are not good at. And those two things should ideally complement each other. So instead, why don't we teach kids how to analyze complexity, spot misinformation, form theories, make sense of chaos, learn how to learn? With AI on the rise, the only thing that sets us apart is the one thing that school seems determined to suppress. That is original thought. And one of the things I do in my videos is promote other people's products. And I do this because it's good karma, it might be something you actually like or need, and it's good practice for when this channel gets monetized, which of course is going to happen. And today I'd like to promote the Mark Ryden Business Backpack. This one I've had almost 3 years, and as you can see, it's held up very well with very few issues, and it almost looks new. What I really like about this backpack is that it's very versatile. It has a component for all my work things, files, and a sleeve for a laptop. And then it has a compartment for clothing, which goes up front here. And there's even a pocket up front for my headphones for any time I get on an airplane. There's secret compartments for holding my passport. But I always use this anytime I go on a trip that's 2 nights or less. This backpack is the way to go, and I don't even have a carry-on. And I've even used it for longer trips. It's also waterproof, and yes, I have been caught in a rainstorm with this. I took a 2-night trip to New York City, and yes, I did put a full business suit in the backpack, and it fit fine, and it did not mess up the suit. But while I was wearing the suit running through the streets of New York City, there was a rainstorm and I had this backpack on with all my work stuff and my laptop, and I was running through the streets. And thankfully, this held up just fine in the water. It's still, to this day, very highly rated on Amazon, and you can get it for less than 70 bucks. So I'll leave a link to this product in the description below so you can check it out. All right, back to the video. Next, let's talk about what if we let non-experts and even kids tackle our biggest problems. So specifically, let's talk about what I call the rabbit hole trap. Ever notice that the more expert someone becomes in a field, the narrower their view often becomes? This isn't a dig, it's structural. As you move deeper into any domain, medicine, physics, or law, you begin to specialize, you internalize implicit bias, you stop questioning first principles, and this becomes the rabbit hole trap. You know so much about one thing, you stop seeing everything else. And I know because I have a terminal degree in engineering. Breakthroughs often come not from the center, but from the outside of the system. Einstein was a patent clerk. The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics. Steve Wozniak was a dropout building circuit boards in his garage. Why? Because sometimes lack of expertise is a superpower, because it frees you from assumptions. So I say let kids in the lab. We act like quantum mechanics is too advanced for young students. What if they don't need to know everything to help us discover something? Imagine a classroom where 10th graders design a new particle simulation. 6th graders propose alternate interpretations of wave function collapse. A high school debate team tackles the Copenhagen versus many worlds models. Would it be messy? Sure, but it would also be unbiased. And it would give kids something school never does, a reason to care. You might as well let them into the sandbox, because you might be shocked at what castles they build. So let's think about real quick the quantum eraser experiment and what could be known. Let's connect the dots straight from some of my earlier videos. In the quantum eraser experiment, particles behave differently depending on whether information could be known, even if it was later erased. The implication is that consciousness changes reality not just by observation, but by potential knowledge. Now, think about that in a classroom context. If we only let experts approach the deepest questions in physics or in our real world, we limit the range of what could be known. And therefore, we limit reality itself. You want to create new outcomes? You need new minds. Minds that haven't been programmed to follow the old code. Young plus unbiased could mean brilliance. Young people are unbiased, unfiltered data generators. They ask stupid questions, which are often brilliant. They challenge rules that don't make sense. They haven't been disciplined into how it's always been done. Instead of, that's not how it works, you get, but why? In a world of exponential complexity, climate, AI, geopolitics, that kind of raw cognitive freedom isn't just refreshing, it's essential. What if our hardest problems are unsolved, not because they're too complex, but because we keep asking the same type of people to solve them? What if we scaled this? The wisdom of the non-expert. Crowdsourced thinking, decentralized problem labs, intergenerational collaboration. Imagine a forum where kids, retirees, artists, engineers, spiritual leaders, coders, all co-work on unified theory challenges, or urban sustainability models, or future of work policies. Not because they're credentialed, but because they bring a different lens. Wisdom is pattern recognition. The more varied the lenses, the more patterns we can see. As long as we rely solely on qualified professionals, we are filtering reality through a single aperture. Let's try to open the frame.
But here's where things get really messed up. John D. Rockefeller also funded big pharma and medical schools, with the initiative being from taking people from natural healing remedies towards pharmaceutical-based care. And from this, he created a perfect system. The schools create the workers. They work forever, which makes them sick. Then they have to take pharmaceutical drugs to stay alive. And from that, he makes endless money.
And another thing I do in my videos is I do a YouTube shout out to a fellow content creator. And I do that because it's good karma and they've done such a good job of inspiring me. I want to give them the credit they deserve. Today I want to promote Jake Wan. His videos are on topics similar to this channel, and he discusses things like consciousness, reality, and psychology. And he's also the reason for me making this video. I've been wanting to do this for a while. just understanding the struggles that my kids have gone through in our current education system. But I wasn't aware of the General Education Board and the fact that our system is built for 1903, which is basically the Industrial Revolution. He has a few thousand subs, so he's well ahead of me, but he still has a long ways to go, so it'd be great if you could go check him out. I'll leave a link to his channel and his Instagram in the description below, as well as an interesting video about how your partner should trigger you. That's an interesting one. All right, back to this video. The last thing I want to talk about are some ideas around a potential new education system. So the old loop is learn, obey, and conform. Let's break down the old system. Here's how the causal loop goes. You memorize, not to learn, but to score. You obey, not because it's wise, but because the system rewards it. You follow, not your passions, but the map you are handed. Then you work, often in jobs designed for stability, not inspiration. And when you burn out, the system blames you, not the loop. This loop doesn't just fail students and all of us. It designs everyone to comply, consume, and conform. Schools don't reward divergent thinkers. They correct them. So addressing the hidden output of today's education. The goal of today's education is not enlightenment. It's scalability. What you get is workers who can follow procedure, citizens who defer to authority, consumers who buy into the dream. The side effects? Creativity dies young. Confidence shrinks. Inquiry becomes risky. And when someone does question the model, they're labeled unfocused, uncooperative, or worse, unrealistic. But let's ask something bold. What if realism is just a prison built by those who gave up dreaming? So let's propose a new loop. Learn, solve, thrive. Start by teaching kids how to question, hypothesize, and research. Give them real problems, not workbook prompts. Let them fail early and revise often. Reward teamwork over solo test scores. Encourage imagination as the core asset of intelligence. And above all, give them agency over what and how they learn. This loop doesn't produce obedient workers. It produces confident problem solvers. That's the shift from answers to experiments, from curriculum to curiosity. Just for the sake of experimentation, let's call this new model problem craft. It's a sandbox system that frames learning as open-ended problem solving. It encourages cross-discipline collaboration and allows learners to craft solutions, not just consume content. In Problem Craft, we wouldn't ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? We would ask, what problem do you want to help solve? This model would not teach information. It would build resilience, agency, and help kids understand systems. So could this really work? And what can you do? Yes, and here's how to start, even without waiting for national reform. If you're a parent, let your kids lead a project at home, any kind, science, community, or creative. If you're a teacher, build space into the syllabus for student-generated challenges. If you're a school, pilot programs that track collaboration, not just test scores. And if you're a viewer, learn in public, question your own expertise, share your rabbit hole with others, and you might get inspiring, unbiased answers. Change doesn't start with systems. It starts with the people who question them. If we stop treating kids like memory sticks, maybe they'll stop acting like robots. So we don't necessarily need a revolution, we just need an invitation. This isn't about tearing it all down. It's about inviting more minds into the problem-solving arena. Minds that are unfiltered, uncredentialed, but also unapologetically curious. Education isn't broken because teachers are bad. It's broken because the system thinks learning is a ladder, when it's actually a network. The future isn't built by rule followers. It's built by question askers. You don't need permission to start doing that. Thanks for watching today. My key takeaways for today are, for parents and educators, memorization is not learning. We need to teach thinking, not compliance. For Gen Z and current students, question the curriculum. If it feels pointless, it might just be. And then for all of you, real education solves problems. Let's start building the systems to do this. So what are your thoughts on how to change our education system? Does it need to be modernized given the obvious change going on and the fact that we're no longer in the Industrial Revolution? Go ahead and comment below and tell us what you think. If you like what you saw today, please go ahead and like and subscribe, as it will keep this content coming your way. And as you know, it's my goal to make this content entertaining and funny, enlightening and educational, as well as a little bit nostalgic. Stay tuned, as we're going to talk about topics ranging from consciousness to physics, as well as the intersections in between that affect your thinking and being. Until then, keep thinking and being, and do not go gentle into that good night.